Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to my man cave. I'm going to do something today that I've never done before. As you know, for those of you that have been following me for a while, I like to do product review videos and product demo videos, and I've done quite a few. And today I'm going to come back and do a 2-year follow-up video on this JVR Industries Vac100 chamber sealer that I've had for I've had it a little over 2 years, but the original video that I posted on this came out in November of 2020. So it's been right at about 2 years since I did the review. I want to follow up and tell you about this and how much I've been using it and how much I like it, and just let you know from this point how much use this guy still gets here in the man cave. I'm going to give you a link in the video description to the original video I did on this unit, where you can go back and look and see the features that this unit has if you're interested. There is a newer model out of this that we'll probably be looking at sometime here in the future, but the changes are minimal. This guy is still the beast that it was from day one. To start with, I want to go over again some of the things I really like about this. This chamber compartment for this vacuum sealer is the perfect size for home use. I'll show you a couple of quick measurements here. The compartment is about 13 inches wide and all 11.5 inches deep front to back. But the measurement that matters here is the sealer bar. The sealer bar is 12 inches wide. Here in the man cave, my uses, I buy 3 different size bags to use in this sealer. I buy these 6x8 bags for small projects. They fit in here absolutely no problem. And the most commonly used size bag that I use here are the 8x10s. That's my go-to for just about everything I vacuum seal. And when I've got something that's a little larger that I want to seal, I have some 10x13 bags that work really well in here as well. So I could probably get 11x13 or even a 12x12. There's a lot of custom size bags you can get for these sealers, but 12 inches wide at the seal bars as far as you'd want to go. And I'd probably say 11, an 11x13 would be a really right size large bag for this project. Another thing that this sealer does very well is seals jars. And because of the depth, you can't go with the really deep jar. These half-pint jars and these pint jars fit in here nicely, where you can, that cap's not the kind of cap you use, but the regular ball or mason jar caps, you can vacuum seal these guys right onto the top. And JVR also has an accessory that's even better at this that I'm going to show you in a separate video a little bit later. I have that product and I haven't done video on it yet, but we're going to get that done real soon here. I'm going to go ahead and give you another quick demo of how well this thing works with something that I do frequently here in the man cave. I make my own homemade barbecue rubs, and I make it in bulk. So the part that I'm not going to use, I like to put it in a vacuum seal bag so I can store it and not have to worry about any degradation. So let's go ahead and run a cycle. And as that releases, you can see that I've got a rock hard seal on that. It's just incredibly tight. And I put that away and store it, and the lack of oxygen in that container allows those rubs and spices and whatnot that are in here to stay fresh when I put them in the cabinet out of sight. Here's a couple more examples of what I use this thing for and what I use it so frequently for. Here's an example of a really thick piece of dry aged ribeye that's living in my freezer in a vacuum seal bag. The vacuum sealer with the quality that we have here allows that guy to live in the freezer for a really long time without you having to worry about degradation or freezer burn. And this guy This one has actually been in my freezer already for 6 months, and you know, it looks like it's still in amazing shape. I'd have no problem with that. Here's a couple of dry aged pork loin pieces that have been living in my freezer that are ready to go. You've got no sign of freezer burn of any kind. These guys have been in there for 4 months. I've got a beautiful piece of pork loin here that I wanted to show you specifically. This is in one of the larger bags. This is in one of the 10 by 13 bags, and the date that I have on this package is February of 2022. So this guy's been in my freezer for 8 months, and it's still in beautifully perfect shape. I've got this guy will be ready to cook. I'm actually going to be cooking this one soon. More recently, which I mean just this past week, I bought a big slab of pork belly, and this one's only been in the freezer for a few days. But as you can see, you know, I've got super crazy tight vacuum on that. There's no play, no air, no give, and I've got incredibly good seal quality across the top of this bag. These guys are not going to come open. And for what it's worth also, I typically use the 3 mil bags, the thickness. And that's another thing we want to talk about, the bags. The bags for these vacuum sealers are where you can really save some money. These 6 by 8 bags cost 3 to 5 cents a piece, depending on how many you buy at a time. The 8 by 10 bags cost about a nickel a piece, and the 10 by 13 bags cost about 8 cents a piece, 9 cents depending on where you buy them. And if you compare that to the cost of the chamber sealer bags that you're cutting off a roll and making yourself, these things are a steal. They're incredibly cheap. When I calculated up the average cost of those roll bags, even buying a bargain brand of those bags, I was getting you know, 20 cents plus per bag, and that's a huge savings. I also want to give you a brief look at the inside of the Vac100. This is the heart of the beast, and this is real easy to access. There's just a couple of screws that have to come out of the back to take the back panel off, and then it raises up and props itself open. Any part that you could need ever for replacement parts are available for this guy. This is not a throwaway machine if you have problems, which I haven't had. You know, I haven't had any issues here to deal with at all, but this is the heart of this machine. This is the oil pump, and this is what's called a non-maintenance free machine. And some of the points that make this better than a typical machine is a stronger vacuum draw. This vacuum right here is an oil lubricated rotary vane vacuum pump, and it pulls about 99% of the air out of the vacuum chamber that we looked at earlier. The dry piston pumps that don't have the maintenance free pumps that don't have the oil pumps, they only pull somewhere between 80 and 90% of the oxygen out of the chamber. They don't pull anywhere as near as strong of a vacuum as these guys do. These pumps are also quieter than those non-oil pumps. They just run a lot quieter, and that's handy. You know, it's handy. It doesn't make as much noise, and these also have a longer lifespan. Like I said, this is not a throwaway device. If anything goes wrong here, all of these parts are replaceable, or if anything in the pump goes bad, which, you know, I would never expect here, it's all replaceable parts. You don't have to chuck the machine and buy a new one if the pump goes bad. So it's a very simple process, and the maintenance that's involved here is very simple. The only maintenance that's involved here is occasionally changing this oil, and that has to be changed. That change frequencies depending on how much you use the machine. I use my machine. I told you guys about how much I use my machine. I've changed the oil in this machine twice since I've had it, and it's a very simple process. You just open the machine up like I have here, and here you can see the oil window, and there's a set screw right here, or a screw. It's like an oil pan drain plug on your car, and you just take that out, and then there's a run through right here, a rubber piece. Let me get up and show you that a little bit better as well. That there's a drain in the bottom here, so you just set this over the edge of your counter or whatnot and hold a cup under it, and you open up the oil, the fill cap up here on top, and just let the oil drain out. And it's not that much. It's like, I think maybe there's 8 ounces, roughly 8 ounces of oil in there. And then you just fill it back up to the midline of this sight window here. And it's a 5-minute long process. It really literally takes 5 minutes to make that change. And JVR sells the oil, and it's cheap. I don't remember how much comes in the bottle, but there's enough in that bottle for multiple oil changes on this thing. And my opinion is the typical home user on this would not need to do this more than once a year, or maybe once even 18 months in typical use. But I've got a schedule that I do this on just so I don't let it slip. But guys, everything you can see in here, you can see how well and how clean everything's put together inside of here. It's really well done. And as I've said many times before, this is the most frequently used accessory in my kitchen. I don't think I have a tool anywhere other than maybe an instant read thermometer that I use as much as I use this guy. To give you an idea of how much use I get out of this, during the 2 years, a little over 2 years I have been using this, I've reordered bags twice, and I buy my bags in quantities of 1,000. So I have been through I've been through over 2,000 of the 8x10 bags, I know, and I've been through about 700, somewhere between 700 and 800 of the 10x13 bags, and I've been through probably 300 or so of the smaller 6x8 inch bags. I just use this for so many things. It allows me to buy things in bulk. Like you saw some of the uncooked meat that I just showed you. If I buy a whole pork loin, that's a lot of meat in a 2-person household. So I don't hesitate to buy stuff in bulk when I have this at my disposal. I can buy 10 pounds or even 20 pounds of ground beef, and I can very easily break it down into 1, 2, or 3 pound packages in these bags. And then when I put it in these bags, after I vacuum seal it in the bag, I flatten the bag out nice and flat and toss it in the freezer. So when I pull that out, it naturally thaws very quickly. So buying in bulk's no problem. My wife likes to buy 3 or 4 pounds of bacon at a time, and I'll take 4 slices of bacon and package it in one of these small bags and toss them in the freezer where she can pull bacon out just as she needs it to cook, and don't ever have to worry about that going bad. One final thing that I love about this is I put cooked meat leftovers in vacuum seal also. You guys know I cook a ton of barbecue. I cook a lot of pulled pork, I cook a lot of ribs, and I cook a lot of brisket. I like to take what I've got left over and package them up in individual serving size packages, like mainly using these 8x10 bags, and I vacuum seal that meat and I toss it in the freezer. And when it comes time to reheat that, my favorite method of reheating is just taking the vacuum seal bag and dropping it in a sous vide bath. I like to run my sous vide circulator on a bath tank at 165 degrees, and I can take a frozen bag of a single serving or multiple bags of single servings of pulled pork barbecue and drop them in the sous vide bath for 30 minutes. And reheating that stuff in the sous vide bath at 165 is darn close to having a fresh pulled pork barbecue. The quality of that reheat in the sous vide bath is crazy, and having it vacuum sealed in a good tight vacuum seal like this allows that to happen very smoothly, very easily. So, in wrapping things up, I guess basically what I want to stress is having a vacuum sealer of this nature makes life easy for you with buying in bulk, saving leftovers. You're ultimately going to save money in the long haul with bag prices like you get on these. And also, one of the things I found is I didn't realize how many things I would do with a vacuum sealer until I got a chamber sealer. The duty cycle here, something else I guess I should mention, you can't run a food saver over and over and over again if you're doing things in bulk, because it gets hot and it makes you let it wait to cool down. I have never had a problem. I can seal 20, 30, 40 bags, one right after the other in this guy, and it keeps right on chugging. I don't ever have to slow down for a cool down cycle like I do on the food saver. So with a vacuum sealer like this, you will find yourself finding new things to use it for. You'll start vacuum sealing because you love the results you get from doing it. You'll vacuum seal everything. You'll save money on food as well because you'll have less spoilage. It's just a money saver. You know, you get one of these and then it's smooth sailing on leftovers and bulk purchases from here on out. So guys, like I said, I can't stress enough how much I love this JVR Vac100. It's a workhorse. It's a beast, and there are very few days that go by here in my man cave kitchen that this guy doesn't see some action. So if you're considering upgrading or even getting a first vacuum sealer, have a look at these. I'm going to give you the link to JVR in the video description here, where you can have a look at these vacuum sealers and make your own choice. They've got a couple of models that are perfect for home use. So guys, until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.